Okay, so let's talk about the word conservatism. We hear it thrown around all the time, right? But what if I told you it doesn't actually mean just one thing? That hidden inside that single word is a centuries-long battle between two totally opposing ideas, authority and freedom. Let's dive in.
So, what is conservatism, really? If you're just thinking of a simple checklist of policies, well, the reality is way more complex, and honestly, a lot more interesting.
Because you see, the answer completely changes depending on who you ask, and maybe more importantly, when you ask them. This one ideology actually holds a fundamental clash of ideas that's been raging for hundreds of years.
And at the very heart of that whole debate is this single, powerful question. What's the best way to create social order? Is it through top-down authority, or is it through bottom-up, individual freedom? This is the core tension we're going to explore today.
So you've got this one ideology with two competing visions. One is all about absolute control, while the other champions the power of the free market. Let's see how they really stack up.
So, which one is it? Do you believe that order has to be imposed by some powerful authority from the top down? Or do you trust that it'll just emerge naturally from the choices of free individuals? I mean, these are two profoundly different ways of looking at the world.
All right, first up, order through authority. This vision, it was born out of a reaction to revolution, and it put stability and control above absolutely everything else. We call it authoritarian conservatism. Its core idea is pretty simple. To keep order and prevent chaos, society needs a strong authoritarian hand. This isn't about democracy or individual rights, it's about stability, period. This quote from Joseph de Maistre really gets to the core fear. Thinkers like him, they saw the absolute chaos of the French Revolution and basically concluded that any attempt at reform was just a doorway to more suffering. For them, the only safe path was the old one. So what did they actually want? Well, they wanted to bring back all-powerful kings. They wanted a society where everyone knew their place and was strictly subordinate to their masters, and a complete rejection of liberal ideas. They even argued that the monarchs themselves should answer to a higher spiritual power, like the Pope. And look, this wasn't some fringe theory. Throughout the 1800s, this was the dominant philosophy across a huge chunk of Europe. From the Tsar in Russia to Bismarck in Germany, the main goal was to hold back the tide of liberalism and just maintain that rigid, top-down control.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Not all of these authoritarian conservatives relied only on the elites. Some were a lot savvier, and they started looking to the common people for a whole new source of power.
You had figures like Napoleon, and later Argentina's Juan Perón, who basically wrote a new playbook. They kept the authoritarian control, but they added promises of economic help for the masses. By mixing the interests of the old elites with the support of the poor, they built a really potent political force.
Okay, now let's pivot to the complete other side of the conservative coin. A totally different vision emerged, with a radical new answer to that question of order. It put its faith not in the state, but in the free market. This is often called Libertarian Conservatism, and it's a kind of hybrid ideology that wants two things that might seem like they contradict each other: maximum individual liberty, especially in the economy, and a strong, stable social order. So, how do they pull that off? Well, the logic kind of goes like this. First, it shares that pessimistic view of human nature. People aren't angels. But instead of controlling them with a king, it harnesses their natural self-interest, what Adam Smith called the love of lucre, through the market. This competition then forces people to become self-disciplined and hardworking, which creates social order from the bottom up. In this view, the government's only job is to be the referee and enforce the rules of the game. Now, what's so fascinating here is how you can see this ideology's DNA. It takes its desire for social order and authority from traditional conservatism. Think Edmund Burke. But it borrows its love for free markets and individual liberty directly from classical liberalism. Think Adam Smith. It's a really unique blend. And it's probably no surprise that this particular brand of conservatism became most powerful in places like the UK and the United States. I mean, these were the countries where those classical liberal ideas of individual freedom and free markets had already taken the deepest root.
So now we've got our two competing visions on the table. One that seeks order through the absolute power of the state, and another that seeks order through the absolute freedom of the market. Let's put them head to head. And this really lays the conflict bare. For the authoritarians,
Order comes from the all-powerful state, and the individual is just a subordinate. For the libertarians, order comes from the free market. The state should be minimal, and the individual is sovereign. It's a clash between top-down control and bottom-up self-discipline.
But this debate is not settled, not even within conservatism itself. Some traditional conservatives look at the free market's constant change and competition, and they worry. They're afraid that all this endless innovation will actually destroy social bonds and create disorder. They'd much rather have the stability of tradition and authority.
So all of this leaves us with a pretty essential question. What does this deep divide tell us about how we even create a good society in the first place? What we've really seen is that conservatism isn't just one single idea. It's a centuries-long argument about human nature itself, and it offers two profoundly different answers to the question of how to get a stable, orderly society. Is it through control, or is it through freedom?
And that leaves us with the ultimate question to think about, doesn't it? Is social order something that has to be carefully designed and imposed from the top down by a powerful authority? Or is it something that just emerges, unplanned and naturally, from the free interactions of millions of people from the bottom up? The answer you choose, well, that places you on one side of this great conservative divide.